Welcome to a new episode of Unique Pathways presented by H3 Sports. I am your host, Ben Rekosh, and today we are joined by Jack Witmer. Jack is a graduate student on the Virginia football team this year, playing with the Cavaliers, going through a couple coaching changes, or I guess one coaching change, which we talked about a little bit, to coaching staffs. Went through a position change, which is really unique to his pathway. See what I did there? But Jack Witmer, really appreciate him taking some time to talk with me today. We got into a little bit about each of his years at UVA, including the loss of three members of the Wahoo family. So I appreciate his perspective on that situation, and how he thought that Coach Tony Elliott and the rest of the administration at Virginia handled that difficult tragedy in November of 2022. Really fun to talk to Jack about all things playing basketball, growing up in Texas, right outside of Houston, and then, of course, being an integral part of the UVA offensive line in 2024 and then again in 2025. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Once again, thanks so much to Jack for sitting down and talking with me. Stick around to the end. It's a really good one. He has some good stories to tell, some good advice, putting football and sports into a larger life perspective. Be sure to like and subscribe so as to not miss any episode. Go back in the archives if you have missed any of the past one. There have been some good episodes uploaded this spring and another good one right here today. So without further ado, this is my conversation with UVA football's Jack Witmer.
Unique Pathways is sponsored by Piedmont Realty Holdings, building better together. Bellaterra Landscaping and Hardscaping Services. ECS Prosthetics, we come to you. Jeff Burton Consulting, charting your path to a successful outcome. Major League Mindset, results on and off the field. Blue Sky Property Management, own your experience. BSN Sports, the heart of the game.
We are now joined by Jack Witmer, who is an offensive lineman on the University of Virginia football team, been in Charlottesville since 2021, now in a grad year with the Cavaliers under Tony Elliott. Really excited for him to be joining the show. Jack, thanks so much. I want to open it with this question right here. So I mentioned that you play offensive line, specifically left tackle, for most of last season. You played in all 12 games, 5 starts. And I think when someone says left tackle or offensive line, to me, it's not the first position that you think of in football. Usually you think of a quarterback or a receiver or a running back. What do you think? Well, first of all, do you think it's accurate that the offensive line and just everybody in the trenches is sort of undervalued and underappreciated in the greater scheme of the game?
Yes, I mean I think it's an age-old adage with football. It's like the O-line, you never get your name called for anything. Like you don't, there's no stats really that are taken for an O-lineman that people are going to look at. There's no catch. Like I'm not going to get a touchdown. It's you really just you kind of prop up other guys. I wouldn't say that they're undervalued or anything. I think everyone knows what the value is of having a good line and stuff like that. But definitely a position where you're not doing it for the glory. You're not doing it so the announcer is going to say, "Oh, Jack Witmer did this amazing thing." No, you're doing it so that your team can win, and I think that's something that every lineman appreciates. And it's definitely a change from other positions on the field.
How do you view playing left tackle specifically, right? Because everybody on the line is kind of working in sync. It's the ultimate team aspect of football. How do you take that approach into every game?
Yeah, so I mean, every single piece of the line is important as the next piece next to it. I mean, we have a thing for the Virginia offensive line called FIST, which is five individuals strong together. Excuse me. So yeah, everyone has to work together, play their part. I mean, if your left tackle's not playing well, it's just as detrimental as the right guard not doing his job on a play. I mean, every play there's a certain position has like the block that they need to make, but if they make that block and then someone else in the backside or something doesn't make a good block, then I mean it's just as detrimental.
Just staying larger picture a little bit, what do you think, if anything, that the normal football fan gets wrong about playing off the offensive line and what they bring to the team?
I think a lot of the times a normal fan probably doesn't understand the complexity that goes
Mhm.
into blocking the offensive line and the amount of calls and different things. Obviously, they know like route concepts and all that, but I don't think probably most average people understand how difficult it is to pick up blitzes and do that. I think they just see, oh, it's like see guy in front of me, block guy in front of me, which is clearly not the case, as I've like learned over the past couple years. But that's probably my biggest misconception I think people probably have.
Yeah, and that kind of gets me to where I wanted to start really with your journey is that if anyone knows who Jack Witmer is, you weren't always an offensive lineman. You came to UVA as a tight end, hoping to get some play there, of course, under the Bronco Mendenhall coaching staff. And then eventually, I think it was only a year or two ago that Des Kitchings approached you and needed some more help in the trenches and thought that you would have the body for it, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So this is a multi-step question, but your first reaction when, I don't know if it was Coach Dez or Terry Heffernan, the offensive line coach, that came to you and said, we need some more bodies.
Yeah, so probably my initial reaction. I remember I was home and Kitch called me and told me I was pretty upset, understandably so.
Hmm.
Just like off the rip reaction. Even though I've been playing tight end my entire life, literally have played no other position coming up through middle school and high school. So to be like, hey, like you can obviously stay there if you want, but we just think you're not going to play as well as you would if we move over to tackle. Definitely knee jerk reaction for me at the beginning was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, this is like the end of my football career and whatever. But after that, after talking to some people, cooling the head down, definitely was happy to make the switch over. I think it's a new opportunity. It was a new opportunity at the time. I looking back now, I'm very glad I did. But
Yeah.
in the moment, it was definitely a difficult decision in the moment to be like, hey, like I'm not going to transfer. I'm not going to go somewhere else. I'm not going to just try to stick it out. I'm going to like do what's best for the team and like go out and help in the trenches.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a tight end all through high school. You were a tight end as you were being recruited, and then you were a tight end your first couple of years. So obviously that position has a little bit of experience with blocking, but to my knowledge, you had no prior experience with just the entire concept of playing offensive line, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So both mentally and physically, what kind of toll did that take on you? You had to learn how Coach Terry Heffernan operated everything on a day-to-day basis. You had to learn a different part of the offense from Des Kitching. I'm sure you had to put on some weight to
Yeah.
transition from tight end to offensive line. So both mentally and physically, how did you approach that?
Yeah. So I guess physically first, that was probably the biggest kind of worry when it first got going. So since the transition, I probably put on 50, 60 pounds, which is,
Wow.
a ton of weight. Got in the weight room though with Smo and then our nutritionists. Really did a good job. Didn't put as much of it as I could on as muscle. I think my body's only a few pounds away from the maximum amount of muscle I'm allowed to, or like my body can support, which is great. Um, so that was definitely tough, going through that, having to eat a ton every day, make sure I was hitting the right macros and stuff and get the weight on. But definitely not as hard as I thought it was going to be. And also, I don't know, it wasn't like the worst thing in the world to, put on some weight and be able to see how much stronger I get in the weight room and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which is definitely cool to see. And then from
When
the
you were
mental
bulking up,
aspect,
sorry, when you were bulking
I,
up, did you just get to eat as much pizza and ice cream and cheeseburgers as you wanted to? What was that like?
I wish it was mostly consistent of just like eating what exactly I normally would eat, and then the chatting on like if I was having like a burger and fries or something for dinner, it'd be like now I'm gonna have like three burgers to hit that protein
Wow.
and everything. I mean, obviously not trying to add in all the junk food and stuff like that, hit the
Yeah.
calories, but most of it was just taking the next step with the protein and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially, I think leaned on a lot of steaks during my
That's
transition.
awesome. That's awesome. And then just the mental aspect of it. I talked about learning new schemes, but also learning new teammates, right? How did you
Yeah.
take all of that in?
Yeah. So well, from the teammate side of it, I live with three offensive linemen. So I was already pretty much roped into kind of the O line, and those are guys I already hung out with. So that wasn't too terribly hard of a transition. But from the actual mental part and the game side of it, that was probably the bigger part. I mean, I didn't realize, obviously, as a tight end, you get a little flavor of blocking with a tackle. You're like, oh, hey, we're blocking together on this play. We're doing this. Like the overall run
Hmm.
concept, you're like, okay, wide zone right, wide zone left. But the actual like nitty gritty, how to pick up a blitz, how does six man protection work, how does the slide work, how does all that work? That definitely took me a while to get under and figure out. I mean, it's something I've never done before in football, like compared
Hmm.
to playing tight end for all these years, like we talked about. So that was definitely an interesting part, and I was really glad to learn it, and it's been really cool. Like now, like I know it, and like I know the offense like inside and out. So that's definitely a mental aspect part that was pretty difficult to overcome, but we're here now. So
Yeah. I mean, I assume that when Des Kitchings originally told you that he wanted you to play the line, it was kind of as a we need you to do it now because we need more bodies thing, right? You were kind of
mhm.
thrown into the fire at first. Was that difficult to not really have any warm-up time, learn the position at all, get all of the techniques right? You were just in practice day one, you had to know what you were doing?
Yeah, so yeah. I mean, pretty much came out there. I mean, I don't really remember probably the first day of, I think I transitioned spring ball my second year.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember that first day. I remember a couple, or maybe the first day, I might have put my braces on the wrong way and then had to switch them midway through practice. But um, yeah, I mean, it's like kick stepping is not a natural thing that people just like pick up and know how to do. And so that was definitely that takes a long time to learn. And some of the movements are definitely similar to tight end, but I mean,
Yeah.
you move your body in a completely different way whenever you're trying to stop an edge rusher versus running a route.
So if this what you're talking about is say a 10,000 foot view, let's take a 50,000 foot view on it. Just view it in life or sport in general. Maybe to anyone that's watching this, how could they take an experience like you had? You're still playing the same sport that you've loved your whole life. Just got to
Mhm.
make a minor switch. How both mentally or physically did you have anyone give you advice about that? And would you have any thoughts to people maybe in a similar situation?
Yeah, definitely. So definitely one of the reasons or like kind of examples, whenever I was making the transition, my dad talked to me about, he was like, imagine you're in a company and you're a high performer and they say, hey, like, Jack, we want you to go move over to Germany
Hmm.
and control the whole German team. And it's like, are you gonna, obviously you can say no to the opportunity, you'd be like, hey, no, I'm kind of satisfied where I'm at, or are you gonna go jump and do something kind of uncomfortable and something that you may not be kind of accustomed to, but you have some skills that will be really, really successful in, and if you work hard that you can make it work. So I think in life you just kind of got to realize the kind of situation you're in, and taking the uncomfortable step isn't always a bad thing.
That's awesome. Have they thrown in any packages where you go out wide and maybe a little trick play, get some of those tight end hands in?
Not yet. I hope so. I mean, even if we did, I probably wouldn't be able to say that, for secrecy reasons. Coming up, season's coming up soon. But
Do you still
um,
practice those tight end skills like your footwork and catching passes and everything like that?
yeah, I mean, I'll definitely throw around the ball from time to time if guys have it out on the field or anything. Always trying to, linemen always like to try to run routes against each other and act like we're the
Yeah.
wide receivers and DBs. So definitely do that. But I'm like not on the jugs anymore like I used to be or anything like
Yeah.
that. But the footwork, also the very different footwork that you need. Like I don't need the lateral like super quick cuts or anything. It's more of like pressing off the feet and stuff like that. But
Yeah. Awesome. Let's take it back to Texas a little bit. Go back
yeah,
to your roots. So you're from Cypress, Texas, which if I'm not wrong is right outside of Houston. Is that right?
that's correct.
So you played football there at Sci High School, is that right? What's the
Fair.
Sci Fair High School? Excuse
Yeah.
me. So I'm going to read off a couple stats here for you. Unanimous first team all district as senior, junior, and sophomore. You were a member of the undefeated Texas 6A Division II state championship team as a freshman, and you
hmm
finished your high school with a team record of, excuse me, you had a high school team record of 47 and 6. Just talk me through some of your memories of playing there, what life was like right outside of Houston, and generally football, high school football, especially in Texas, isn't just football, right? You go to Charlottesville
Yeah.
or you go anywhere in Virginia, and it's something to do on a Friday night. But in Texas, it seems kind of like a momentous occasion happening once a week.
Yeah, definitely it is. I mean, going back, definitely have fond memories. Playing high school football is definitely a big deal to be on the team, and especially be able to be on like the championship team as well as like start for the other 3 years. I mean, a phenomenal experience to play football in Texas. Like you said, it's a massive event. I mean, some of our stadiums are or the two stadiums I played in high school were actually pretty nuts. The Barry Center and Pridgeon Stadium. I mean, they look pretty close to college stadiums
Yeah.
with 20, 30,000 people capacity. So that's, it was really interesting, really fun to play in kind of that high school, the Texas high school compared to, what some of these other guys got to play in. Um, I don't know, man. It's definitely like I said, really fond memories that I'll have going forward in life of playing there. I had a head coach there for 3 years. Very old school guy, very ground and pound offense. Really enjoyed that. I think I probably caught the ball. I only got like 5 targets and 5 catches my first 2 years, and kind of then my senior year we had a former quarterback come and coach us as
Awesome.
spread offense. But my first couple years was just ground and pound, old school, gritty football, and it worked. I mean, won a lot of games. So
Yeah, that kind of ground and pound also teaches you, being a tight end, a little bit of those offensive line skills. I also
yeah.
read that you were on the basketball team, and you were frankly a good basketball player at Cypher as well. First of all, tell me about your skill set. If you have an NBA comp or anything like that, what it was like playing on the hardwood there, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, basketball is definitely not as obviously like such a big deal as football was, but I definitely had a lot of fun playing basketball. Originally, I actually almost my freshman year quit football to play basketball, and
Wow.
then they decided, or they put me on the state playoff team for the playoffs with the
Hmm.
varsity. So I was like, oh, we'll stick it out, and then in winning the state championship, I would say probably was like, hey, maybe this football thing's not so bad. So I was pretty close though to playing. Kind of putting my all eggs in one basket my freshman year and playing basketball only. Had a lot of fun. Was a power forward. I think I definitely heard throughout recruitment from basketball that I wasn't tall enough, which was always
Okay.
interesting because football I was well a little. They were like, "Oh, you're going to be a little too tall," and then basketball they're like, "Yeah, you're a little too short." So,
Couldn't find a
um,
balance.
yeah, I should have played a guard or something if I was smart going back. Definitely would have probably
Yeah.
helped with the athleticism. But like I said, really fun memories playing basketball. Definitely we'll get back into it
Yeah.
after I finish football.
So this is something that I like to ask people that really excel at one sport, like you do in football, but then we're also excellent at another sport, whether it be basketball, baseball, lacrosse. How do you kind of see those skill sets translating to each of the games? And then as you got more serious into football, how did you use your basketball prowess? Maybe it's the footwork or the agility or something like that to inform you to become a better football player.
Yeah. So definitely like no matter what sports you play, like competitiveness is just going to seep over between the two.
Hmm.
But I think one of the biggest things though, just like athletic movements wise from basketball to football, like being in the post and posting people up and then being a tight end and being on like a stick route and kind of boxing out a linebacker and getting that
Just the
ball. It's
physicality of it all.
yeah, physicality and also just using your arms and your legs and really be able to create separation. So somebody in basketball can throw you a little bounce pass in the post versus football, catch that ball, get a 5, 6 yard gain. That's definitely something that tracks over. And they always talk about footwork as kind of a universal language between basketball and football.
So out of Cy-Fair High School, you committed to UVA to Bronco Mendenhall, as I mentioned at the top. I think you committed right in July of 2020, so the middle of the pandemic. Talk to me about your recruitment. Was it always UVA? Who else was involved? Did you think about staying home to go play in Texas?
Yeah, so definitely a very interesting time to go through your recruitment during the middle of COVID. So did not take an official visit to any schools. Didn't really take even an unofficial visit.
Hmm.
So we went on a trip as a family, me, my mom, my dad. I have 2 sisters too, but they didn't come on the trip. But
Hmm.
us three went up and we drove through pretty much the whole East Coast visiting a bunch of Ivy League schools. We visited UVA, obviously, drove through like Pittsburgh and a couple other ACC schools. And originally we came to Charlottesville first, and I kind of walked around Charlottesville before we had seen everywhere else. And I was like, Mom, I think this is the place I want to go. And she was like, well, we need to see all the other places on the rest of the trip. And I was like, no, Mom, like this is definitely the place. So maybe I had a little bit of blinders on, but with how beautiful the campus was, I knew how great the academics were, and the coaching staff and Mendenhall staff to me. I was like, this is just kind of made the perfect place for me when I showed up. But I mean, it was kind of crazy too, thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Just walked around by myself with my parents at UVA. Not that many people around because of COVID, and didn't really even get to talk to any of the coaches because they weren't allowed to, have any like contact during COVID. But
Yeah.
it was really, really interesting recruitment process.
So you bring something up that I talk a lot about on the show, in that the pandemic is not unique in the fact that all 8 billion people in this world experienced COVID-19, but it's unique in that every single person had a different experience with it.
hmm
So for you, you were obviously going through the recruitment process, but how were you staying in shape? Was it doing push-ups in your garage? Was it going in the backyard or to school with the open turf and running
Yeah.
routes? What were you doing then?
Yeah, so Texas had some pretty lax restrictions on what we could do. So there was definitely some gyms, and our high school actually ended up taking out all of the equipment from the weight room and just putting it on the field
Oh,
or one of the
wow.
practice fields.
That's
So
awesome.
got to lift outside and do that for pretty much the whole pandemic, which was great. And then also, like you said, running routes and stuff, wearing like little face buffs and
Yeah.
doing all that. I mean, we were pretty much full go through the whole thing, kind of in Texas fashion, I guess.
So as you were walking through these different campuses across the East Coast, were you just calling all of these coaches? What was the contact like, if there was any?
Yeah, so I remember like UVA, we went up and stood at the top of the practice field and kind of just looked down and like, I mean, I don't know if the coaches even knew I was there because I don't know if they were even allowed to do
Yeah.
that. But some other schools, I remember we'd FaceTime a coach and kind of walk through buildings, and he'd be like, "Hey, go to that one, go to that one." You're just kind of like showing the coach around on the phone, and he's just talking to you through about like the certain things. So yeah, I think that was kind of the brisk of it. And there was a few where you could wear some masks and have like a guided tour, but I don't even think I think those were through like the admissions office or something like that, where it was set up, but not like through football contact or anything. So it was, like I said, a really interesting time to be recruited and have to pick a college when I don't really get to like look a coach in the eye or shake his hand. It was all kind of over virtual stuff, which I guess is a
Yeah.
lot of people's experience during COVID too.
That's weird. And then obviously you were on the team in 2021, but didn't appear in a game. What was life like under the Mendenhall coaching regime? And then we'll get into how it ended. How it ended.
Yeah. So, I mean, Mendenhall is a very interesting coach, very different philosophy from, a ton of other programs. I mean, obviously, you've probably heard of like not having a number and then having to earn your
Yep.
number, as well
Yep.
as like even in the weight room, we had different colors that would signify like how strong you were and how well you were doing within all the weights. So it was very much like you're going to earn exactly what you're given. Like this, there were so many different kind of sayings and like I'm trying to think what they exactly were called, but sayings that they went along with, like stories of what you're going to do
hmm
and such. So that was just really interesting to me, and I really liked it. And I mean, Mendenhall definitely changed me from coming into high school, just being with them for 1 year. I learned a lot just about myself and about like grittiness and what I could put myself through. So they definitely were trying to break everybody in as hard as possible.
So for those who are watching or don't know or want to learn more, and I think this is one of the most fascinating parts of what Mendenhall did, you mentioned, is that you don't have a number until maybe a week or two before the season starts. What were those 2 or 3 days like? Just everybody trying to scramble, do these drills, and get the number that they want. And then as a young freshman, how did you deal with all that?
Yeah, so you get your number. Obviously, you get your number through practices, like the fall camp practices. So going through, I think, first 2 weeks. At the end of the second week, that's when they have the first
And
number
is
night.
that sorry to cut you off? Is that just a number
Yeah.
that they assign you 1 through 99 or what?
No, so this is what the number night. So you don't have no one
Okay.
has a number for the first 2 weeks of practice. It's just your name on the back of a blank jersey, and then
Wow.
you go through the first 2 weeks, and they'll have like a number night, and then you come in, and then Mendenhall would stand at the front, and he'd read off a list of names of guys who have now earned their number deemed by him. Guys who obviously the first guys to go are going to be like the returning starters, like Brennan Armstrong, like a returning quarterback, like anybody who is he had deemed had worked hard enough to deserve the number for the team. And
Yeah.
obviously, most of the time for the first day and the second day would always be like all the guys you expected to. It's all the starters, anyone's going to play. And then after that, you start to have to do something kind of out of the ordinary. If you're a freshman or something like that to kind of earn your number. Whether it was like have like an amazing practice, like make some amazing plays, really like catch one of the coach's eyes or something for them to kind of bring
hmm
you up to get your number.
That's awesome. And did you end up happy with what you got or no?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I got number 96 my freshman year. I mean,
That's not
I
a
was
tight
really
end
happy
number.
to, yeah, definitely not a tight end number. There was slim pickings to choose from, especially when you're a first year and you're just kind of competing against literally everybody else. I mean, with the hierarchy of it, but I was really proud to earn it in the middle of the season. I mean, because you just go through the whole year, with this blank slate and everybody knows, and finally it's really satisfying to put on that jersey and be like, this is my number. I earned this number. So obviously 96 not a great number, but I was really proud to have earned it.
That's awesome. And then Coach Mendenhall abruptly steps down about a month after the season.
Yeah.
Takes a couple weeks, but Virginia eventually brings in Tony Elliott. Talk about going through a coaching staff, not having Mendenhall who recruited you and brought you in and trusted you to be a part of the program, and then having to maybe earn that trust back from Tony Elliott and Des Kitchings, and their staff, and just generally the vibe and message of the difficulty of a coaching search.
Yeah. So definitely really interesting whenever you come into college, you never think that your coach is going to leave.
Yeah.
Especially a coach like Mendenhall, where I was like, when I was being originally recruited, it was like the Orange Bowl year. And then you were like, then it was the 6-6 like COVID year. And you're like, okay, like things are going pretty good. They're definitely got this program on the up and up. And then just call us into a meeting one day and leave, obviously for some personal reasons and stuff. Definitely not what you expect. Definitely glad I had chosen UVA though, for the academics and stuff, as well as somewhere where I was going to be happy with, not just because of the coaching staff, which is some advice given to me through recruiting, which I thought was really great advice. I didn't think I'd ever have to use, but ended up
Yeah.
using. But when the new staff came in, definitely you always heard the rumblings for the couple weeks or month, leading up before they hired Coach Elliott. We originally, had a meeting with him. He talked about the model program, kind of how things were. Everyone was pretty bought in with his vision, I think. As much as you can be, coming from a different coaching staff change. So that was really interesting. It's definitely an experience I didn't think I was going to have my college career.
Taking a 50,000 foot view again, how do you use a situation like that where there's an abrupt change, a sudden change, one that you don't expect? You got to wait about a month, see what life is going to be like for the next 5, 6 years. And then when you do find out, you have to learn everything. And I mean
Mhm.
everything. Again, just stepping way back, how do you use a coaching change and put that into a bigger perspective?
Yeah. So I think definitely from a bigger perspective, like originally you have to kind of step back and look introspective and be like, hey, or like, what can I take from this staff that's leaving? And like, what are like the good things that are going on? Like, what exactly, like what parts of my personality and stuff like need improvement? Like, what are my strengths or my weaknesses? Whenever, a new staff's coming in and these guys are going to be walking through the door and completely judging you. So I don't know if
Mhm.
that's, within life or a job, if somebody like had something like that change for them or like a boss change something like that. I think you just got to be like, hey, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Like, what are these people going to be seeing when they look at me, for the first time? It's all about first impressions when you're meeting new people that are going to be, working with day in, day out. So I think you also get to see if you like mesh well kind of with the people and what's going on. So definitely take that with me for the rest of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I look at your accolades from UVA, there are a couple of things that stick out. One of them is your accomplishments in the classroom. UVA, obviously prestigious institution. So 2023 All ACC academic team, ACC honor roll, 2022 ACC honor roll as well. So what exactly are you studying at UVA? And then going back to your high school days. How has the academic side of being a student athlete always impacted you on the field and off the field?
Yeah. So at UVA, I'm studying right now. I'm in the comm school, studying finance and IT here. And then this next year coming up for my master's, I'll do the global comm program. So that's our business school and all that. Really excited to do that. Always knew from high school I wanted to get into business, but kind of the backbone of my parents and uh, mine kind of relationship and like how we always talked about what we wanted football to be for me was like we want to use it as kind of a launch pad into somewhere maybe my academics wanted to take me, but always wanted to take them super serious. Obviously, I don't think I would have got into UVA probably from high school just straight out of, with my grades and stuff, but using
Yeah.
football and being able to compete with the other students here in the classroom and use, what makes me me and my student athlete and my grind and my competitiveness to compete in the classroom, I think is really important.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then are there any specific aspirations that you have after UVA or after football is over to do with that business degree?
Yeah, so I'm really interested in wealth management as well as sales and trading. So currently kind of pursuing a couple of those opportunities. Mostly really just interested in kind of any career in finance. I'm a really big numbers guy. Love watching the market, stuff like that. So definitely looking into some of those positions.
So being this just gave me a thought of you talking about business and finance and connecting it to football and everything. NIL, obviously, you have an insider perspective as someone that's studying it, but also that someone is experiencing it and living in that situation. So quickly, if you will, give me a couple thoughts on the trajectory of all of this, pros and cons, and what you've seen from a firsthand perspective on how it impacts people directly.
Yeah. So, I mean, NIL is like college football today is completely different than when I first stepped into it my first year with the
Yeah,
NIL and just how things are going. So, obviously, heading towards kind of a semi pro state to me, honestly, where guys are pretty much everyone's paid, everyone's on scholarship.
yeah,
So, just right off the bat, I guess, just for guys that it just sucks for some guys, like for walk ons, obviously, they're kind of losing their spot in college football, which to me is kind of a detriment to the game. I feel like the walk on is always one of the most important parts of college football. I think one of the most important things that kind of differentiates itself from the NFL. Like this guy really didn't have a shot out of high school, but now he's here and he can work his tail off and then finally gets a shot, stuff like that. So I think that's an unfortunate part that's taken away from NIL. But on the other hand, like really excited, as an athlete to get paid for all the revenue that you bring into the school and like just setting guys up for life, guys that may not have an opportunity to, go to the NFL, but, they'll end up having some life-changing money, right out of school. It's phenomenal, for a ton of guys.
that's a great perspective. Pros and cons. From a business perspective, a lot of ways it's good. From a personal perspective, it's good, it's bad. We'll see. Only
Yeah.
5 or so years into this whole endeavor, and
Hmm.
they say they're going to make some changes. We'll see what those are in the future.
Yeah. Interesting.
Season after 2021, obviously not an easy transition right here. Anyone that knows the UVA football program knows how it ended, knows why it ended. The loss of Lavelle Davis Jr., Deshaun Perry, Devin Chandler. Obviously a tough time for college football, for Virginia football, Tony Elliott, everybody on the team. You don't have to go. You can talk about this as much as you want to. Did you have a connection with those guys and just talk about that rallying bond that came about the team the weeks and months following that tragedy?
Yeah. So definitely, tragedy is definitely a big part of everyone that was on that team's life now and forevermore. Personally, I wouldn't say we were like all the best of friends, but we're all teammates at the end of the day. Like
Yeah,
those are guys that I would trust that if I see around, I'm going to say what's up. I'm going to, check on how they're all doing. So, it's definitely hard to see three guys that, you work with day in, day out. You see them grinding on the field, about them. You're in the same like friend groups and stuff. You see them out
yeah,
on campus and stuff like that. And just to have that happen is just unthinkable. I mean, I never thought, something like that would ever happen to me or anybody I knew. But I mean, those guys are really were really a great part of the team. I mean, obviously we have like awards and that and stuff now that we really speak about them. I mean, but yeah, Deshaun, Lavelle, Devin, phenomenal guys. All of them, smiles will light up a room.
hmm
It's really a travesty that, we don't have them still with us.
yeah. It feels like something important to bring up because obviously football players they are known for football, but someone in your shoes that's gone through 5 years of college football nowadays doesn't have that. That is, for better or for worse, part of your, which is the namesake of this show, unique pathway. So just a really, really heartbreaking situation that yourself and everybody had to deal with it. Can you speak a bit about the leadership that Coach Elliott had in the days and weeks following that event?
Yeah, I mean, Coach E did as good as or as well as he could have. I mean, nobody trains to know how to handle losing three college football players right after or right in the middle of a season. I mean, it's just as a person, I've always really admired who Coach E is as a person and his authentic
Hmm.
self, and he was really helpful with getting guys through it, having meetings, just getting us around each other. Remember, we had a lot of mandatory like meals and stuff like that. He was like, "Hey, we just need to be around
Yeah.
each other. We don't want anyone to go off by themselves and really take all this grief on at once." So that was really phenomenal on his part. I think he did an amazing job, with the team, just helping out and really just keeping us together and keeping the main thing whenever it came to such a tragic situation like that.
Eventually, there was a moment, maybe in the spring or the fall to follow, that you didn't have to flip a switch as a team back to football, but you had to keep in mind that these people, they're loved and everything, and it's a travesty that they're there. But there's a new season to prepare for ahead.
Mhm.
Approaching that as a team, as a coaching staff, how difficult was that to kind of shift your mind away and get ready for the 2023 season?
Yeah, definitely tough. Especially going back out there the first couple times where you're like, hey, like I was totally used to seeing these guys around, and now they're just not here anymore, and like knowing why and stuff like that. But like Coach E said, like, or I was always talked about, like, not having them there with you, like you can sit there and just kind of be sorry about it, or you can like really live your life and in a way that would honor them and in a way that they'd be proud of you going on. Still remembering their memory, still obviously being very, yeah, like remembrance to their memory and like being able to honor them. But obviously, like I think if even myself passed away, like you would want people to
Hmm.
still go on and still be able to continue your legacy and be able to share your stories in different parts of your life.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for sharing a little bit about your perspective of the loss of Devin, Lavelle, and Deshaun, and obviously still really feeling that in Charlottesville and the entire Virginia football community. Before we wrap up here, I want to talk a little bit about last season, 2024. I
Mhm.
mentioned at the start of the show, you played in all 12 games, um, 5 starts. You were kind of thrown in there as a backup sometimes. Sometimes you had to start. Let's begin there. How difficult is it? How hard is it to prepare if on a week to week basis you don't know if you're going to be one of the first 11 guys going out there?
Yeah, I mean, as an O line, we prepare, the two deep all the way through. Everyone that pretty much is not on scout team is prepared to play the game like you're going to be taking every single snap, and especially kind of knowing our issues that we had with kind of the offensive tackle depth. I'd kind of just prepare every week like that, whether I was going with the ones or the twos in practice, like just prepare that everything is going to be like you're taking all 100 snaps that game, no matter who it is. Looking at the players that you're playing, making sure you know everything that's going on. There's not really a change in kind of the preparation, whether you're a starter or you're a backup.
I remember the Coastal Carolina game from this season, massive in the running game. The offensive line was huge. And you were a big part of that day. Is there a moment that you can remember that sort of clicked that you thought to yourself that you've gotten the hang of this offensive line thing and you could be a real contributor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I definitely think, well, going back to the beginning of that season, obviously Richmond, I was
Yeah.
pretty nervous to go out there for the first game. Obviously, like I think more nervous than probably most guys would ever be. But playing a new position and starting at it in your first time in a college football game is extremely worrying. So or extremely like nerve wracking. So that
Yeah.
was really interesting. But I think after getting through that game and then probably through the Maryland game after that, I was like after playing a Power Five opponent and playing well, I was like okay, maybe I actually understand how to do this. I've done well. I did my job for the team. So that was probably the moment for me.
Talk about that Coastal Carolina game a little bit, right? The offensive line, big factor in helping the Hoos propel into that one. The running game was huge. I'll ask this before I get to anything. How weird is it playing on a teal turf like they have there in South Carolina?
Yeah, so that was really interesting. I mean, it's way more teal than it is on TV. I don't know if they mute it
Hmm.
down or anything for TV, but it was. Definitely interesting. I mean, there's a very few colored fields in college football,
Yeah.
so it was interesting to play on one of them, and I think it's definitely interesting, especially you're right on the beach there, kind of smelled like the beach, but
How
definitely something
teal
to take
is
with
it? How
you.
different is the teal from a normal green?
So I remember in the game, like going out there and be like, oh, it's kind of weird, but at the end of the day, it's still a football field, it's still 100 yards, and then they're still same size, still 52 yards across. There's a mark for every yard, so it's not that different at the end of the day. I mean,
Yeah.
you get used to it, especially going out there for a couple minutes and just kind of seeing it, being like, okay, this is nothing that big of a difference from green to teal.
So the team finishes the season with a subpar record. Certainly not what everybody was hoping for. But personally, as you look back on it, do you kind of feel like all the hard work you put in, the coaching change, the position change, um, what everybody had to deal with in 2022, and just your 4 or 5 years of built up hours in the gym and on the field finally paying off with those 12 games played and 5 starts.
Yeah. So for me, obviously not the result as a team we wanted for the season. Definitely wanted to go bowling this year,
Yeah.
but definitely still think we're on the right path. Tracking wise, like we've continued to win games, and I think the games have got closer that we lost, and I can see definitely an improvement in the team and the guys that we were on the team and stuff like that. I think it's definitely getting better. But for me personally, though, this year was definitely a big accomplishment. Like we said, transitioning from tight end to tackle and getting these starts and playing for the team, playing every game on offense. I mean, I was very proud of kind of the work that I put in to get to this moment, and to see it kind of pay off the way it did this year was very satisfying for me.
It feels like there's been a lot of momentum building through this winter and the off season around the program, right? I don't know if that's the sense internally, but definitely from the fan base, it seems like everybody is a little more excited than in years past. Maybe that's because of the coaching staff or because of the elite transfer class that they've brought in. And you mentioned that it was a pretty productive spring practice, which is wrapped up by now.
Mhm.
First game in August. Just looking at it into next season, do you have any individual goals or team goals that you'd like to share right now?
Yeah. So just for me personally, I'll do whatever it takes for this team to win games. Really, just looking to go bowling this year with the team. That's
Yeah.
definitely the goal. Especially with all the guys we brought in and how things are going, I think this will be a phenomenal year for us. I think everyone's really excited to get behind Chandler and see how us as offense can perform, and then especially with the guys we get on defense too. I think this is one of the most excited I've been. Looking forward to a year in a long time.
So you've kind of had to do what's needed of you through your first 4 years, as we've talked about. Do you plan on sticking in the offensive line, maybe playing a little bit of tight end or outside more, maybe if necessary, switching from left tackle to right tackle or right guard, special teams? Where do you see yourself fitting into the positional equation of everything?
Yeah, definitely still going with the role on special teams. Punch, shield, field goal, and then I'll be anywhere they need me on the line. Whether it's left tackle, right tackle, or a guard, or even center if they need me to. I'm really just wherever they need me to play, and I'm excited to play and help out team kind of wherever I can. But strictly speaking, they're probably just going to be at left and right tackle. Helping wherever I can, whatever job is best fit for me that Coach F sees. So.
Technically speaking, for someone that doesn't know a lot about the X's and O's and really intricate little details of football, can you describe the difference between playing right tackle, right guard, left guard?
Yeah. So switching sides on the line, just for like obviously you have to flip every single play in your mind, kind of depending on where you trained, to know like, hey, we're on the left and we're running the ball this way, we're on the front side, and we're on the left and running the ball to the right, and now we're on the back side. And then also just kind of switching stances, but playing tight end, obviously really used to playing on both sides, and I think
Yeah.
too, just going through football, you kind of get changed out a lot between the left and the right. There's no like only guys that play left really anymore. I feel like, or only guys that play right. A lot of people bounce around kind of to wherever they're needed.
And just about the difference between guard and tackle. For someone that needs the very, very basics of it, what do the two do?
Yeah, so obviously tackle, you're a little bit more of an island, a little bit more of the edge, going against the edge rush and stuff like that. Get out into more space as a tackle, as well as you're going in and set more of an edge of the defense. Whereas guards is more vertical, more guys right on you when at the snap. You're playing bigger guys, you're having to move bigger guys at guard. A little bit more of working together with a center and a tackle most of the time, but very, very similar skill sets, but also very different skill sets when you look at it. Because as a guard, you obviously got to be a stronger, bigger guy, typically shorter compared to tackles or more lankier, bigger guys that do better in space.
Awesome. We talked about it a little bit. After UVA, is this your last season, first of all? And then what do you want to do when you graduate? Is it playing football at the next level, or is it getting right into the workforce with that business degree?
Yeah, so this will be my last year, and I definitely am looking forward to. I think this is probably the end of my football career here at UVA, but definitely a career I can look back on and be satisfied with, and then getting into kind of the finance working world. Already looking forward to that, interviewing for some jobs and stuff like that. So definitely excited to take the next step in life.
Phenomenal. Well, would be really cool to root you on past the football field. Couple rapid fire questions, and then we can wrap it up here. Really appreciate all the time you've given me. First one, you wore 81 in high school and 68 after the Bronco Mendenhall Numbers Day
Mhm.
situation with Tony Elliott here. Is there a reason behind either of those choices?
No, there's no reason. I just think both of them were kind of available, and they were the best choice at the moment. There wasn't many choices when I came to O line, but really glad with kind of the two choices. I think I made a name for myself in the both numbers. So
Okay. Who is your favorite athlete growing up?
my favorite athlete growing up was Blake Griffin for sure. This was like around the time when he won the dunk contest and jumped over the car, and I was a big fan of kind of the Clippers growing up and all that. So that was definitely fun watching Blake and Chris Paul.
Being from Houston, were you a Rockets fan, an Astros fan, and a Texans fan?
Yep, those are
That's
my three
great. So
teams. Yeah,
right in the good days of those James Harden Rockets had that ISO ball,
yeah,
made a couple of runs in the playoffs. That's really cool.
yeah.
Go to gas station snack and drink combo.
So I'd probably go with like the ranch bugles and then
Mm,
yogurt pretzels and then like probably a sweet tea. So
good answer. If you could only listen to one artist for the rest of your life, who would it be?
I'm gonna have to go with Coulter Wall. He's right here. I got two, like Coulter Wall and Tyler Childers right here, but I'll probably get Coulter Wall. I feel like pretty relaxing guy. I would enjoy his music. He's the only thing I could listen to.
Say they made a movie about your life, or say UVA goes 12 and 0 next season, or any of other things. Who, in an ideal world, would you want to play Jack Witmer in a movie?
Yeah, so I'd have to probably go with John Krasinski. That was my nickname in high school was Jim Halpert for I think my junior year. And so
I
when
can
I was
see it a little
skinnier, I
bit.
looked
Yeah.
yeah, when I was skinnier, I definitely looked a lot more like him, but I'd definitely go with him.
Okay. What's the app that you use the most on your phone?
Probably Clash of Clans at this point. I play a lot of Clash of Clans, which is kind of unfortunate. And a lot of the O line guys do, so we all have fun
Nice.
with that. But yeah, we're all pretty addicted to it.
Nice. Last question, and every single show with this one, ask every single guest. Your answer can be about football, about life, about school, business, family, whatever you want it to be about. The world is your oyster. What is one great piece of advice that someone has given you and you would like to share with the world?
Yeah, so I'd probably go back to the Bronco Mendenhall thing and just earn not given, just having a mentality that you're not entitled to absolutely anything at all, no matter what it is in life, no matter what position it is, no matter what was promised to you. Nothing is in life is ever entitled to you. You got to work for everything that you've earned or been given at all, in some way that you've done that. So I definitely think It's something I'll definitely take away from football in college, among a million other things. But one of the biggest things was definitely earn not given.
Awesome. That's a great way to end it. Jack Witmer, really appreciate you taking some of your time in a busy spring that you have, classes, football, everything like that, to sit down and chat with me on this show. Really enjoyed getting to know you, getting to know the ins and outs of UVA football, your relationship with it, your recruitment, and all the things like that. Really, really excited for this upcoming season. And of course, wishing you all the best in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Ben. It was
Yeah,
a
thanks so
pleasure.
much. Yeah, thank you. All right, thanks so much once again to Jack Witmer from UVA Football for taking some time to sit down and talk with me about his life journey, playing football, playing basketball, and everything that you just listened to or watched. Once again, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate all of your support. Be sure to hit the follow button or subscribe button wherever you are listening to this or watching this as to not miss any episode. And if you have missed an episode, of course, they are all available in the archives on your podcast app or in YouTube. Leave us a rating if you feel so inclined. It helps us out a lot. And follow us on social media at H3 Sports Media. This has been Unique Pathways presented by H3 Sports. I am your host, Ben Rekosh. Stay tuned for next time. Once again, thanks to Andy Huffmeyer, Jeff Burton, and the rest of the H3 board, and a big appreciation to Jack Witmer for taking some time to talk with me today.
Unique Pathways is sponsored by Piedmont Realty Holdings, building better together. Bellaterra Landscaping and Hardscaping Services. ECS Prosthetics, we come to you. Jeff Burton Consulting, charting your path to a successful outcome. Major League Mindset, results on and off the field. Blue Sky Property Management, own your experience. BSN Sports, the heart of the game.